Yes, we are back. What is happening, Pod Gang? My name is Emil Walker, and you are listening to Inside the Ride, a podcast that dives deep into conversations with fascinating people about the highs and lows of their journey towards purpose. My guest today is Richard Eckersley, a retired professional footballer who, along with his wife, opened up the first organic zero-waste shop in the UK a couple of years ago called Earth.Food.Love. At age 19, he found himself playing for Manchester United in front of 75,000 people at Old Trafford. Just over 10 years later, he now lives in Totnes, Devon, which also happens to be the town that I grew up in, and has created an incredible service for the local community who use their own containers for the food they buy to keep the waste levels at zero. It all started when he was back up in Manchester and the council didn't offer recycling in their area. They had to start a petition just to get a recycling bin, but even then realised just how much waste everyone was producing with their food packaging. After doing some research, he came across a shop in Berlin that was zero waste and decided that that was the way to go. Having opened up their shop, this became a popular model across the UK, and they even have a PDF document on their website you can download to help you open up your own. Since we recorded the podcast, they have also founded a new organic dairy-free milk delivery company called Rerouted Organic. I tried some of the coconut milk in their shop the other day and it was absolutely insane. Genuinely probably the best milk I've ever had, not even kidding. I thoroughly enjoyed this conversation and definitely feel a lot more inspired to rethink about the amount of waste I produce on a daily basis, and I hope it does the same for you. Please make some noise for Richard Eckersley. How's things? How are you?
Things are good. Lots going on. You know, my wife's pregnant.
Again?
Yeah, again.
Congratulations.
Yeah. It's good. So, you know, obviously seeing to her, she's 32 weeks, 33 weeks. So it'll be due in a few weeks. Running the shop, and then it's also starting up a new business as well. So lots happening. And then also running around after a toddler. So
wow. Exciting times. So it was pretty interesting doing some research on you for this podcast. I first saw the shop, was it about 2 years ago you opened?
We opened just over 2 years ago, yeah.
And when I started the podcast, I was thinking like, oh, he would be a great person to chat to. It's a very kind of forward-thinking thing you've got going on. But then I started looking into you and it looks like you actually have a bit of history playing football as well.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. I was a footballer my whole entire life. I grew up in a family of footballers. My dad was semi-professional, but my brother also is professionally retired just last year or earlier this year. So all growing up, all I ever knew was football. Also, obviously living in Manchester, you know, with two huge...
Big city for football.
Well, it's two huge teams now, but City wasn't a huge team at the time. This was back in the day. Any City fans. But yeah, obviously... that was a big part of my life. So I joined Manchester United when I was like maybe 7 or 8, because obviously through the academy. So I was with them.
7 or 8?
Yeah. So this is the thing, like, so obviously I had this routine of playing like at least 4 times a week from the ages of that, you know, and probably before then as well, because obviously I'd played with my brothers. So yeah, it was a big part of my life, and realizing down the line, I mean, yeah, I think staying in the same club for that amount of years, it becomes like a family. You get to know the coaches it's a family, because you go up through the age groups. And then I ended up making my debut for Manchester United, which was unbelievable. And then it was weird. It was almost like, I've done it. I've made it. You know, all these years of pushing, working, you know, being really disciplined with what I eat and what I drink and who I go out with and who I don't go out with. And then to actually get to that moment, playing in front of 75,000 people at Old Trafford, it was like, you know, and that mindset
how old were you when
I was 19.
Wow.
Yeah, I was 19. So, it was so like fortuitous how it happened as well, because I was meant to make my debut in like say the October of, I can't even give you years, maybe 2009, something like that. And it didn't happen because I got injured. I got injured about a week before. So I knew I was going to play this game and I got injured and I was devastated. So anyway, I came back from injury in the January or February. And anyway, I got thrown straight in there after an injury. So I was just like made up and, you know, and then I made it was FA Cup. I made my debut against Tottenham Hotspur. We won 1-0. I was marking Gareth Bale, actually. Marked him out of the game. No, I didn't. I mean, didn't really have much to do. But it was only winning 1-0. I came on in maybe the 60th minute, something like that. And then a few days later, I made my Premiership debut against West Brom. And we was winning 5-0. I think it was winning 4-0 at the time. And then we made it 5-0. And then again, I came in the 60th minute. Yeah. And then it was just, that was my life. And I was like, wow, this is great. This is what a professional footballer is meant to be. But I was also quite terrified as well. It was quite terrifying being so young, in amongst all these incredible athletes, all these incredible experienced guys that are legends. You know,
you must have so many eyes of the public on you as well.
Yeah, I felt it. I think I felt it, and I'm quite an emotional guy, and I think I've only really started realizing that in the last like 4 or 5 years. But at the time, like, it's almost like you've been trained in a mindset to just cope with what you're dealing with. So obviously, in fairness to us, like at that time, Instagram wasn't a thing. Facebook was there, but Instagram wasn't a thing. Well, it was probably around, but it was 2009. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't like it is now.
Social media was massive. Yeah.
Twitter, like no one was on Twitter. Like from what I remember, anyway, we had like people had Facebook profiles and whatnot, but so you wouldn't necessarily get hammered directly at you.
Yeah,
you know. I know so many footballers that have had Twitter and stuff like that and got absolutely hammered after a bad game and then just deleted their account.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
And I really do not blame them at all. So luckily it was before that day and age. So we carried on and I made my debut at the end of that season. And then we played Hull, and then the following season in the pre-season, Burnley, who just got promoted to the Premiership, then approached me, and I decided to move there because I wanted to play in the Premiership week in, week out. That didn't work out, but there we go.
You still got to do it though.
I still got to do it, but yeah, I think generally, like what I was going back to what I was originally saying, I think getting to that point, I was like, that was, you know, I've done it. You know, it's almost like I've done it, I've made it, and
it's like a childhood achievement.
It's not actually, yeah, it is. You've crossed that line, and in my mind, I was like, yeah, I think once I left United, my hunger started to dip for football, and I was only 20. So I've signed a 4-year contract at Burnley, and I had a really bad time. And then I went over to North America, played for Toronto for a little bit, which was amazing. I started to like get my hunger back for football. I started to enjoy it. And then I got moved to New York Red Bulls, and then I got injured, and life of a footballer. But in the meantime, whilst I was in North America, things started to open up for me about planetary issues and the relevance of football in my life, because obviously, you know, I wasn't affecting anybody. And I really wanted to try and affect the world that I was living in, especially potential kids that I would have in the future. I didn't have it at the time, so that's when the whole shift started to happen for me.
Yeah, I read online that it was in New York where you started reading more and watching documentaries and stuff. Yeah, do you actually live in like a bit of a bubble when you're playing football professionally?
Well, it consumes your whole life, from the moment you get up to the moment you go to sleep. Even though, you know, you go into training, you're only working from 9 until 1:30. You're still constantly thinking about analysing how you could be better, or what things you could implement into your game to make you a better player, to, you know, get you ahead of this guy or that person, or get a new contract, for example. And also thinking about a year in advance. So, you know, if your contract's up in the summer, it's like, oh yeah, what am I going to do? Where am I going to go? Obviously, you know, trying to forward think that as well. So it's very mind consuming. But luckily, like obviously having that time, once you go to training and you come home, having the chance and the opportunity to read books and to watch documentaries allowed me to actually look at things a little bit differently and actually realize football, aside from obviously getting paid really well and the lifestyle that it gives you and the time that it gives you, there's more to life, and obviously you can affect more people and the planet in a better way by opening a zero waste shop, of course. That was well down the line, by the way. That was like, I wasn't even thinking about that then.
Yeah,
no,
yeah. Was there any documentaries or books in particular that caught your attention?
There was one documentary called I Am, that was directed by a person called Tom Shadyac. And I mean, I try and compare myself to him a little bit, but I'm not like him at all, because he found fame quite late. He directed Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, Nutty Professor. So, but
some
he was like
classics.
He was like, yeah, exactly. He was like 40 before he like directed these films. And anyway, he went to stardom, and he had all this money and all this disposable income, and he realized that actually having all this money wasn't making him any happier. And I was feeling that as well. I was getting paid really well, but I wasn't playing in New York. I was injured, and then I was put on the sidelines, and I was just really. We had not a lot of money, but we had a good amount of money to live in New York and to do whatever we wanted. But I wasn't actually happy, and I think I kind of resonated with that a little bit. And I think that shift then started to move me towards other things that I could do.
That sounds super interesting. That you've lived through all of that already, and you're like 30.
Yeah. I mean, a very fortunate position, super fortunate. If you can't pay your rent, it's an issue, But I was lucky enough to be able to pay my rent and have money left over, and we could go into nice restaurants and nice bars and stuff like that. So I got to live that life, which was good.
What was it about the plastics in particular that grabbed your attention?
What was it? I mean, I think.
Did you see The Blue Planet a couple of years
No,
back?
this was before it started to come into the mainstream. I think I was just annoyed. I think So what happened was we finished our time in New York, end of my contract, and there was a change of managers. Even though I'd done really well at the back end of my contract, I didn't get a new contract with New York Red Bulls because there was a new manager that came in, and a new sporting director. So then I came back to England, and then from January until June, until I got married, I didn't even have a job. So I was just kind of in this Manchester apartment. Like I bought it like when I was playing for Burnley. It was only meant to be rented out, but we started living in there anyway. So we started to accumulate rubbish at our front door, plastics, because we'd go to this grocery store in Manchester, and we were just like, this is madness. Like, we're taking it to the recycling centre, but then it's just being thrown into like this big bin, and we're even not even guaranteeing that it's going to actually go into something. It's probably in landfill right now, or it's been incinerated, which is just madness in itself.
I've got the same thing in my studio in London. Annoying. We've got this massive block with about 25 offices in it, and there's no recycling.
Oh man, that is mad.
And it's like they collect 2 general waste bags from each unit every week, and then just chuck it in landfill. So I contacted the council and was like, we don't have recycling. And they're like, there's a recycling depot that's about 3 miles away, so you can take it. I was like, I have a car. And they make it so hard for you to recycle.
Difficult. It was exactly that in Manchester. There was no recycling facility. So then we petitioned to the building managers and things like that we need to get these bins. So then by the time we was leaving, we actually got a bottle bin and a cardboard and paper bin. So that was good at least. But yeah, it was just accumulation at our front door. So we'd obviously like go through some plastic packets, some rices and seeds and things like that, and they'd just go into this box, and then I'd take it once a week to the recycling centre. I'd have to drive there from outside of Manchester City Centre. And I was just like, man, there must be another way. This is crazy, because we'd get all our fruit and potatoes and vegetables loose. So there'd be no packaging in that. It's just the other things. And then it was coincided with me leaving football. So I was coming back on a boat from the Isle of Man from a wedding. And I turned around to Nicola, my wife, and I was just like, I'm going to leave football. I've had enough of it. I've had enough of the mind games that get played. And I was just like, I want to actually take control of my life. And at the time, my daughter was like maybe 6 or 7 weeks old. And I wanted her to have her father around and to be able to come and visit me, and so I wouldn't have to go away and stuff like that. And anyway, so then
it must be hard for kids if they've got a footballer parent that's always away playing games and
especially training. And I think for me, because obviously my mindset was emotional, like I'm an emotional guy. Like I take everything, that football career, very seriously. Like I'd come home and I probably wouldn't be able to just shut off and forget about the training that I'd just done or the game at the weekend that I had. And I didn't want it to overconsume my life again. So I think that shift was needed. So then we just researched where to actually like move to. And our initial idea was get a piece of land and we'll cultivate the land and live proper earth there. Thank goodness that didn't happen, because we actually grow food where we live now, and it's like, even just to grow a tiny bit is like effort. So we then came down, we researched, like a few places came up, Glastonbury, Hebden Bridge. Hebden Bridge wasn't an option for us because it's too close to Manchester. We wanted to move down south. And then Totnes, and I was like, I've never been to Totnes, I want to go and see it. So then we rented a camper van, came down in August of 2016.
Good month to visit Totnes in the rain. It's not quite so appealing.
It was sunny. The markets were busy. Me and Nick was like, oh my goodness, this place is amazing. Like, organic food in the cafes, organic shops, so we started racking our brain again. Like, the first thing was like, let's get land, and that just didn't happen. And then the second thing, okay, we'll rent somewhere just outside and we'll open up a shop. A health food shop. We'll sell all organic food, never thinking about doing it zero waste. And then we came back to Manchester, and I was on the internet or whatever, and I saw this idea for a shop. Well, it was in Berlin. It was called Original Unverpacket, and it was just this image of all these gravity bins, all loose. There's no packaging in the shop, and I was just like,
gravity bins just got the contents in, right?
Yeah, the contents, and you just like, it's called gravity bins because gravity's bringing the food out as opposed to you scooping it out. So they're the things on the wall.
And then you just put it in your own container.
You put it in your own container. And I was just like blown away by this concept. And I was like, let's create a zero waste shop. So then obviously you do your research. You're like, okay, what is there any zero waste shops in the UK? So then we researched that there wasn't. And then we was like,
that's crazy.
I was like, let's make the UK's first zero waste shop.
And that was 2017.
That was 2016.
16. God, you would have thought that there'd be one, at least a few.
There's
wow.
Yeah. Now there's over 80, I think.
Yeah.
Mad. It's mad. So and then we came down and started to build the shop, and the rest is history.
I read, without getting too political, online that Theresa May is hoping to get rid of most plastic packaging in the next 25 years. Do you think that's possible or doable?
I think it's possible, and I think the way they're going to do it is they'll probably use cellulose or they'll use paper. I think it's on the suppliers to actually, because it's tough. If you're a health food shop, it's difficult then to transition to a zero waste shop, because you'll be losing so much of your lines that you would normally have sold. So I think what some health food shops will be waiting for is the suppliers to change their packaging. So for instance, these big, Essential, Cooperative or Infinity Foods or whoever it may be, to go from plastic to cellulose or to paper. But that's a headache in itself. And I think the reason that plastic packaging is so good is that because it keeps the contents fresh-ish. And they don't spill anywhere. You can drop them from 50 feet and they don't spill anywhere.
What are the compostable plastics like? Do they actually degrade?
I think it's a grey area. I think it's a hugely grey area.
Because there's like spoons that you get in Costa now, and I'm like,
is that? It's
like, it just feels like plastic, but it says it's compostable, so I don't know. It doesn't.
I mean, generally when it says it's compostable, it means in an industrial compostable environment,
break it down,
which is like industrial. It's not like in your home compost. It's a completely different
I'm
thing.
sure if I bury one of those spoons, it'll still be there.
Again, though, this is just making us feel better. Like, it's just making us feel better by actually grabbing these and saying, oh, it's compostable, it's not going to be around, but it probably will be around. Like, if it's not in the right environment, it'll probably be around in the next 300 years, who knows. I think it's just making us feel better, and it's just trying to bridge that gap. And I think this thing with marketing, it's actually things are marketed at us to use us or purchase us, and actually they're just it's a real it's greenwashing.
I mean, it's worked quite well with the straws. I feel like most places have either paper straws or no straws now, which
yeah. I mean, it's a big thing, and paper obviously. I think it's tough because as an economy, we've got to kind of keep it going, and I think. Say, for instance, like McDonald's switching from plastic to paper, they, to make even paper, it's such an intensive process to take a tree and make paper straws from the wood, the pulp, or whatever, how they make it.
But it's better if it goes in the sea at the end, I suppose.
It's better if it goes and breaks down and in that sense. But yeah, there's no perfect solution. And that's what we're learning at having a shop as well. I think the best thing you can do is just do the best you can. And even if you're consciously making choices, you're on a good path, because I think, just having that mindset of not just picking that up just for the sake of it. It's actually thinking about actually what implications does that have? If I purchase that, what am I funding? Or, it's all these things.
So I guess like with these other 80 shops, have people been asking you for advice on?
Yeah. Even just today, we've had 2 emails today. One wants to open in the north. They don't specify where. And one wants to open, we had from Charlotte in North Carolina. So all over the world. But we can't answer them. And that's why online we release this PDF where people have almost like a handbook of how to open a zero waste shop. We don't put any costings or any financials in there because obviously we opened in Totnes, but them financials might be different to if you open in London or if you open in North Carolina or in Texas or wherever it may be. So yeah, it's just like a guide to think about the things you need to think about if you're opening a zero waste shop.
I guess it's one of the few businesses where you kind of want to support your competition.
It is. And, I got asked this question actually the other day. It's like, what if all supermarkets start to have these gravity bins? Would that be a good thing? And I was like, yeah, it'd be a good thing for the planet. And I don't necessarily think it'll have a negative impact on us because we are unique in a sense where people either shop with us or they won't shop with us, Like people will either shop in supermarkets or they don't. They shop on the high street. So I think if this concept can get everywhere, I think it's beneficial for the planet and beneficial for people's pockets as well because it's cheaper.
Seems like you guys have got a bit of a community as well, which you wouldn't get in a supermarket. Like even coming in today, there's like different people popping in. And
oh man, it's so amazing because you get to know everyone's name. And I think that's one of the most satisfying parts about the job is that there's never a dull day. There's always someone unloading on you about their problems, which is great. It's like you're absorbing it and you're like giving feedback and stuff like that. So it's always like you're like half shopkeeper, half like this listener as well. Like, okay, it's really interesting, and I think it's a real community feel to it. And I go home at night and I'm like, Nicola, my wife again, tries speaking to me and I'm like, Nick, I can't speak. I'm so tired. I've not done much. I've just stood around and like filled a few things up, but like I've just spoke all day.
Been a sponge.
I've been an absolute sponge and I feel a bit drained. But no, I mean, that's the sort of atmosphere that we wanted to create when we designed and made the shop. We wanted the desk and the counter to be in the middle of the shop and people flow around the counter almost like, so we're not at one end and then the customers at the other end. We wanted to kind of be immersed within the shopping experience.
Do you think it's realistic that supermarkets will become more zero waste?
I think the consumers are the biggest people that are going to demand that. And it seems like there's a lot of these plastic strikes where people leave the plastic at the tills and stuff at the minute. But the thing is with supermarkets, they take so long to change because they're so huge and they've got this huge, they've got people upon people that it has to go through. I think it's a massive, it's such a huge shift for them. With the great thing about small shops and local shops is they can change overnight. Supermarkets take months, years to change, but it needs to be drastic. It needs to be now because the amount of plastic that's flooding out there and people are just buying it and throwing it away. It's just incredible. Yeah,
the plastic bag thing like really frustrates me because they did the 5p tax, but it's like, just get rid of plastic bags.
I know.
Like
it's, yeah. And where did a lot of supermarkets reinvest that 5p? Or does it go straight to their pockets?
I guess it's a tax. So it probably goes to the government.
Well, that's the thing. Like, why isn't it like a thing where if you're charging a 20p tax or you're charging some money for taking that back, then it should be reinvested into the earth, either planting trees somewhere or regeneration of the land or something. It shouldn't just be, we're going to take
extra money.
Like, there's a lot of taking, but there's not a lot of giving in a way. I think personally.
Yeah, in Rwanda in Africa, which economy is far worse than here, they've just banned plastic bags completely. And they'll take them off you. If they go through your bags in the airport on the way in and you've got clothes or something, they'll just take the plastic bags off you.
Wow, that is crazy.
And I don't understand.
It's one way to do it, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't understand why the UK can't do something like that. Beyond me.
I think, obviously, people are just like, human rights, no, I can do whatever I want. I think they're a bit protected in that sense. But I think also we have such good waste management here where it's taken away from you and you don't see it. Whereas in Uganda and other places, it's probably not picked up on the curbside. So you literally see it on a daily basis. Like I was subject to it as well. When I was younger, like, you put the rubbish in the bin, your dad takes it out, puts it in the black bin. The black bin man comes, he picks it up, off it goes. It's an empty bin. You start all over again.
Out of mind.
Exactly. Whereas if we all collected all our own trash and all our own rubbish, we would all be like, holy shit, like this is like taking over my bedroom or my living room or my whole house in some cases.
Yeah, and the street just gets full of it.
Yeah, and I think that's why these other governments have put this in place, because they probably can see it on a daily basis and like, right, okay, this needs to stop like now or yesterday, should I say.
So how's your place up here? You were saying that you grow a bit of your own food.
Yeah, so we rented a place just down the road, about 4 or 5 miles down the road when we was building the shop. And then in 2017, we moved to an intentional community. And again, that's just about not, there's a community in the shop and then I actually go home to a community as well. So yeah, we own 10 acres collectively. I think there's 40 people.
10 acres? Wow.
Yeah, we own 10 acres just about a mile or two up the road. And
was it already going when you came here?
Yeah, it was. And then basically, yeah, we look after the land. We have our own houses, which is great. We have shared meals and we have like a community kitchen where we cook all our own food and like cook, on shared meal days and things. It's great. It's really great. It's not, it's not all sunshine and rainbows, but it's great to know that collectively you're actually working towards something. Like the gardens are amazing. Like we pick our own salads. We never have to buy any salads and raspberries. When the raspberries come through in the next few months, they're amazing. Like we have raspberry bushes that are huge. Like, so there's definitely a maze. And it's also having the connection, because obviously there's gardening days every Thursday, and without knowing it, I'm learning how to garden. Like, it's not like you're consciously like, oh, I'm going having a gardening lesson. You just go up to gardening, you look at other people and they're doing what they're doing and saying, okay, what shall I do? And then you learn like about the plants and about the changing of the soils and the composting and how to compost. And so, yeah, I think I'm learning on the job and I'm learning whilst doing it. And that's generally, since football, how I've lived my life, through the shop, go into a community, gardening, and then, yeah, just day-to-day things, learning on the job.
God, it must be so different for you now than it was like 10 years ago.
Yeah. I wake up, it's so funny because I sometimes dream about football. It's so weird. It's like in my subconscious and I'm dreaming. It's always quite negative. I'm always like not playing, or I'm having a fight with a player or a manager or something. And I wake up like with negative and I wake up and I'm like, oh, okay, I don't have to do that. It's fine. I can go into the shop and just have a chilled day. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, I don't have to go into that job. But I think it's in my psyche. It always will be, I think. Maybe it will, maybe it won't.
Do you still play at all down here?
No.
Nothing?
I don't even have a pair of football boots.
What?
But I'm actually going to try and start on Wednesday. I'm going to lend the guy who works at the shop with me. He has a spare pair of like AstroTurf trainers, and I'm going to lend them off him and maybe play this Wednesday. Rusty. I'll be rusty.
I guess you've probably played more football in the last 10 years than you would, or the previous 10 years, than most people play in their lifetime.
Yeah, every single day, 6 days a week.
6 days a week?
Yeah. I mean, my hat's off to the players that play till the 40 or 35. I stopped when I was 27 and that was enough for me, I think.
Do you think there's like elements of the perseverance and dedication that you had to football that you've brought into your life now?
Yeah, hard work. A lot of hard work, a lot of long days and long nights, but I think that's given me a good foundations, to be fair. And I'm really grateful for that, I think. Just because I think nothing's achieved unless there's a lot of work being put into it. Nothing good is worth doing unless it's actually you have to work for it. So with everything like the shop, starting that like hours upon hours of just research and coordinating things, and I don't know, it was just a bit of a blur, but it was a lot of hard work, and that stemmed from football, because within football you're working on your body on a day-to-day basis. You're working on your mind and how your technique and everything like that. So it's the same thing pretty much, but just not.
Did you have any business experience before you set the shop?
No, nothing. I barely could use a spreadsheet.
I can't use a spreadsheet. I'm rubbish with Excel.
Yeah, but thankfully, like there's online accounting websites now that are great, and I've kind of like mastered them. But again, though, that's through perseverance, because at first I'm like, what even is this? This is mad. What's VAT? How do I apply it? How do I take it off? How do I charge the customer? Like, it's just mad. And now it's like second nature. And I think that's what's great about like human perseverance. It's just, the human brain just continues to learn. And I think challenging yourself on a daily, weekly, monthly basis, I think it's really healthy for you. I think sometimes that's why I never want to retire. I want to always.
I never want to retire.
I never want to. If you want to do something,
crazy.
It's mad because then I just feel like it's like if you think of a river, it's constantly flowing, constantly learning, constantly changing, and then you think of if you stop that river, it starts to go stale, and it's stagnant. And I never want to do that. I want to constantly learn and change, and I think I want to be that sort of role model for my kids and my grandkids, where this is my life. Like my life is my work, and that's it. Or as opposed to, okay, I'm going to get to 65 and that'll be me. Yeah, I'm going to sit and just do nothing all day and read books, which is fine for some people, but for me, couldn't do it. No chance.
Do you see the shop kind of continuing for a long time and maybe into something bigger, or
possibly? Possibly. We're not in the financial situation to take it on now, or I've not got the capacity to do that. But I think it'd be good to maybe go to a bigger premises. The thing with Totnes is, as you know, like, there's not a huge amount of selection for big spaces.
Yeah.
It's not like you're in the US or in Australia where you've got these like industrial parks where you can put a shop there because people go to these huge industrial parks to shop. It's a town centre and we're so limited with space. But it's also a thriving community. So I'm not complaining.
You mentioned challenging yourself and kind of getting out of your comfort zone. Is there any kind of big challenges you've taken on that perhaps haven't worked out quite so well?
I've been fortunate enough currently since opening the shop that all the challenges that I've set myself and tried to implement has worked out okay. I can give you a million different things that with football that didn't work out, but I think this new way of going, I'm not changing too much too soon. I think not changing too much too soon is a good like foundations, because I think if you evolve slowly and you build it really well, it's the recipe for success as opposed to
solid foundations.
Exactly, solid foundations. But people are so like nowadays, obviously about the internet, everything's like, let's make it now, let's make it rush. But I think if you build something so slowly and so solidly that when you do have tough times and it's like, wow, it's actually not working, that it's not just going to crumble, you're actually going to be able to see it through because it's being built on really strong foundations. And I had that mindset going making the shop because, it took us from maybe August till March to build it, and it's a long time because obviously we didn't have jobs at the time. Yeah. So I was living off savings and just like trying to build this business on the side, as well as living our own lives, of course, and with a baby at the time. And I always said, like, if I was building a business, I really want to build this real strong foundations. So that's why it took us so long.
That's a lot of time to be working on a project.
Yeah. And there was times in the shop, like when it first opened, I was like, wow, this is Tuesday. And I was like on Netflix, I was like, God, I've got nothing to do. There's no customers. I'm getting no money for this. Like, and I'd bike home and I'd carry my nuts in my back because I would roast them at home at the time and come back in the morning. And then I'd be like, I made like 100 quid today. Like, this is mad. Like, how am I going to survive off this? But eventually, there are the tough times at the start. But I think, again, if you've not rushed into it and you've got them strong foundations, it's like you get through them. And now, we've got 4 staff and 5 staff and kind of like making a good living. And we're not buying a yacht, but we've got enough to pay the rent and to pay the bills. And we're really happy where we are.
Yeah, I think you picked a good town to do it in. I definitely think, I'm almost surprised, that no one's done it already.
I was surprised. I was almost like holding my breath as well, because when we were doing our research, when we came to Totnes, I was like, please, no one do it, please. Like, almost like, and then when we started to build it, I was like, I hope they don't catch wind of it that we're going to do it and they're going to implement it before us.
Yeah,
we want it to be like a surprise for people.
Right.
But yeah, we were shocked that all the health food stores don't have any loose foods. It's just like,
I was going to say, it's something that an already established shop could just quickly stick in there.
A small section, yeah. And then the whole the surprise aspect of the shop would have been lost.
Yeah.
I remember our opening weekend. It was me, Nicola, and Willow, and my daughter, and we was wearing Willow, serving customers. But it was great. It was an amazing time because I think people just came in and were like, so what do I do? Like, how do I work this? Do you serve me? Do I serve myself? But now everyone knows what to do, and we just kind of like sweep up after them.
So with the products you sell, they're obviously mostly organic or organic?
Everything's organic.
Everything's organic.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the price is going to be a little bit more than the supermarket, and Totnes is a community that I feel is more than happy to pay that money to get something like that, especially if it's not got plastic.
Yeah,
but do you think that this kind of model could work on a bigger scale in places that can't really afford to spend more money than the supermarkets?
Yeah. I mean, the concept is zero waste. Our personal concept is zero waste and only organic foods. We don't believe that food should be sprayed with herbicides or pesticides. That's not how they should be grown, to respect the earth, the planet, the soil, whatever. But yeah, I definitely think that shops, and there is shops that have implemented like a little bit organic and a little bit not organic, just to try and accommodate to the people. But we was just like, we wouldn't buy it if it's not organic, so we're only going to sell organic. So it's kind of an easy choice for us as two people that were coming into it, because we were so passionate about eating foods without chemicals.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, so I mean, we almost stubborn in ourselves, because even if we would walk down the high street when we was doing like research, we would have been like asking people, and if they were saying, no, I don't buy organic, it's too expensive, we're just like, we're still going to do organic, we're still going to do it. But what I love about the shop is that it makes it affordable, because you can get as much or as little as you want. And also, I think people are waking up to the importance of eating organic foods now. It seems that way. Maybe I'm in a bubble in Totnes, but I think people in the last 4 or 5 years, people are like, it seems to me that people are waking up to organic foods, and I think that is great. It's great for everybody. It's great for your health and also for the planet.
And eating locally as well.
Where possible, yeah. Eating locally where possible, as opposed to shipping it from here, there, and everywhere, or planing it. But and that's the things that we've changed as well. Like, and we've been stubborn with that, like, because we had a lot of legumes in the shop that were from China and from far-flung lands, and they were really popular. But we've actually took them off the shelf and replaced them with food or legumes grown in Essex, like Carlin peas and fava beans, that aren't as popular as, say, butter beans or adzuki beans, but they're more important to us because they're grown within the UK.
And I'm sure if you explain that to your customers, they'll be...
do. Well, I'll just say, look, black beans, you can replace them with Carlin peas. Bob's your uncle. Like, it's fine. And they're like, never heard of Carlin peas. I'm like, well, it's grown in the UK, so that's why we want to support it. Like, and we've just like threw it on, again, stubbornness, we've threw it onto the shop floor, and people are starting to buy them now. So I think you've got to have a little bit of like, nah, I'm just going to do it my way, because I think if you try and accommodate too many people, you end up losing your identity a little bit.
Yeah, and the thing with organic food, which is something that I struggle with, is it's like your body is surely the most important thing to spend money on. And I will pick up like a broccoli, and it's twice the price of a non-organic one. And I'm like, I don't really want to spend another pound. But then it's like,
yeah, I know.
If there was something to spend money on, surely that would be it.
I know. And this is the thing, like, how is it that food grown without these chemicals are more expensive than food grown with chemicals?
Yes,
it's because of subsidies by the government, like these stupid companies that produce these petrochemicals to produce this food. And yeah, it's frustrating, but I think the power of one, power of one person, you obviously choose to have the organic one, and then your friend sees that and think, oh, and then maybe ask the question, why are you eating that? And then you explain, and then they have a ripple effect. And before you know it, you've affected 100 people without you directly affecting them. So luckily, having a shop, you can affect a lot more people, because people come in, and also they let the guard down, because they eat organic. They don't even have to check that it's organic. They just, no problem. They know it's organic and they trust us. So, and that's great. That's great to feel as well. That as well.
Do you think there's a way to get some of those old footballer friends of yours involved to help promote the organic and healthy food?
I don't think they're that interested, to be honest.
No, I didn't think they would be.
I mean, they're all my mates. I've got one that still plays really like in the top leagues, for Aston Villa actually. But I mean, he's into healthy eating, and he likes to eat well and things. And but I don't want to put this. Will you say this? Will you say that? Like, because I think it's, unless they ask to look, I want to eat organic. If you've got any advice, I'm not going to like preach to them. I think if you just be the example as opposed to being a preacher, then I think people like take on board more.
Yeah, I was checking out your Instagram the other day, and it's like, it feels inspiring to look at all the stuff that's going on.
Yeah.
So I feel like that's
and the same thing. Like we never ever ask for customers. Like we never say, "Come on down and you get this meal, this deal for this." And then we've never done deals. We just
the product
hold
sells
space.
itself.
We are who we are. We don't want to kid people by putting the price up at this week and then lowering it that week. Like the price is always as cheap as we can possibly sell it, and we don't try and like kid anyone. And I think that is. People like that. People like that transparency, because most shops, most supermarkets, deal of the week, get this, buy this, get this for free. Like, it's just like, oh, come on, man. Like, I want some just genuineness about it. So that's again, another thing that we wanted to try and create. But yeah, I think just the whole issue around organic food, I think it's growing, and I think hopefully it continues to grow too.
Do they give you organic food when you're playing football?
No.
But it's healthy food.
Salads and things like that, but it's grown, probably mass produced and mass sprayed.
You'd have thought with all that money the football clubs have.
But again, it's not their priority. They think their priority is obviously giving you the best treatment you could possibly wish for. But it's weird. Maybe they have started doing it in the last 4 or 5 years, but when I was playing, it wasn't even an importance.
Any vegan footballers?
There is now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there is now. There's Chris Smalling's vegan, I think. So it's becoming a lot. Well, I noticed a big change in my whole my body and how it recover once I turned vegan.
How long have you been vegan for?
I've been vegan since 2014.
Okay.
So it's a good while. And yeah, I mean, I recover quicker. I feel great in my body. I'm sharp-minded-ish. Sometimes, not all the time. Yeah, I think it's definitely benefited me. But it's also changed my mindset as well. I think when I became vegan, I don't know if it was because I was growing up and I was becoming more mature, or it fell in line with the time that I was changing my views on things. So I don't know if it was the veganism that was changing, like
your mindset,
fight for the planet, or not, because I stopped eating meat. But yeah, it was definitely. I don't know if my testosterone lowered or what. I don't know. But definitely it benefited me. I would recover quicker. I'd feel better all the time. I wouldn't feel sluggish. It was great.
What was the transition like from were you vegetarian or eating meat into vegan?
Well, it was pescatarian. I don't eat fish. No, it actually started, we only eat organic food. So we'd get organic cheese, organic meats, this was in Toronto, when I was living in Toronto. And then we said, okay, let's stop eating meat and chicken. And then we only had fish for a little while. It was a really slow process, and then we stopped drinking. I think we stopped drinking milk first, actually, because that's a bit gross. Thinking about it, and then the last thing was we stopped eating cheese. And the last time I had cheese, I remember the last time I had a pizza, like a proper. I was in New York. I was in Hoboken in New Jersey, and I went to like this proper pizzeria, and it was huge, this pizza. And me and my wife was like, "This is the last time we're gonna have cheese like that." We actually made a conscious decision. And we was like, we've not had it since, unless someone's like spiked my food, but I don't think they have. But yeah, that was the last time I had a huge pizza with like cow's cheese on. Now I just have plant-based cheeses on it.
Nice. Yeah, I remember I've been vegetarian for just over 3 years, and the last bit of meat I ate was a KFC.
Did you say this is my last?
I was thinking about it, and then I ate it on New Year's Day. I don't think I'd been to sleep yet, and I was like, you know what? I am done with this.
Fair play to you. That's tough.
I grew up vegetarian, so
your mum raised you vegetarian.
Yeah, I was vegetarian until I was about 12, and then ate meat for another 15 years, and then stopped. So it wasn't difficult for me, but I feel like going vegan is the hardest. But giving up cheese, man, it's
I know. I mean, cheese is great, but there's nothing that compares. I mean, there is. We get some amazing cheeses, plant-based cheeses made from cashews and things like that now. So that is our treat of the week. Like, we normally, if you was someone else, you'd get meat, you go to the butcher's and get a chunk of meat and have that on a Saturday. Ours is like getting amazing cheeses, having crackers, like organic crackers, organic cheese, maybe a bit of wine. Like, that's like our chunk of steak.
So you went vegan with your wife?
Yeah, we did it together.
Yeah, it must be easier having someone to do it with.
Like support. Massive support, and we've never looked back. We've never been like, I really fancy a piece of meat or anything like that. We've always just been like, no, it's not even an option for us. I think our mindset is that the animals are just as important as us. We're not like, the hierarchy isn't us and then the animals. We see ourselves almost like an animal, like, and why should they be put under them circumstances for our enjoyment? I think it's unfair. So I think once you've got that mindset, it's like, no, I don't want to eat them. I'm all right. Unless I was on a desert island, absolutely struggling, and I was dying, or I was like really hungry, and the only thing on there was pigs, and they had the facilities to actually, kill them, hang them upside down, whatever you do to them. Then I don't see I've got choice. I don't see that I need to.
Where do you get most of your protein from?
I don't think about it. I just eat and I just feel great. I think I eat a lot of dark leafy greens, and I eat a lot of legumes, tempeh, tofu. I have a very mixed diet. I don't go home and think, okay, I need this amount of protein, this amount of carbs, this amount of vitamins or minerals or whatever. I just kind of like plant-based food, eat it, it's great.
Feel good.
Feel great. I'm full. Can eat so much and I'm full. But yeah, I don't think about it too much. And I think that whole mindset, there's a lot of influencers now on Instagram. I don't have Instagram. I get told about it from my wife, that have changed now from vegan, vegetarian to completely other way to like keto or keto or whatever it's called.
Yeah, my sister's keto.
Yeah, and I think, okay, that's your decision, but like they're saying like veganism made them ill and made them tired and made them like, I'm not saying like I'm the same as everyone else, but for me, it's been just revolutionary. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I guess it's different for everyone, isn't it? Everyone's bodies work. So my sister went from vegan to vegetarian keto because keto is really hard if you're vegan, but she did it for health reasons. But
I'd like, do you find that like, because they don't eat fruit?
No, it's too much sugar.
Oh man, I couldn't live without fruit. Like, that in itself is like, I just couldn't do that. I couldn't do that. My body thrives on it.
What's your favorite fruit?
Depends what time of the year it is, but I love oranges. Bananas.
Do you grow them up at your
avocados? If you class it as a fruit, which it is kind of, innit? It goes on a tree. We grow apple. We have an orchard just behind our garden, which is incredible in around the autumn time.
Nice.
Picking an apple from a tree and eating it is just phenomenal. And not to be able to do that.
Not many people get to do that.
Yeah, maybe I need to invite you up and actually can do it. But that's true. I'd love to pick an orange off a tree. Maybe that'll happen in the next 20 years if
global warming keeps heating
the
planet up. Yeah, I was in Mallorca last year, and just like the trees in the streets and like Palma have oranges in them. It's like, what?
I'm always like, can I have one of these? Because I was in Elche in the south of Spain a few years ago. I was at Elche FC. I was trialing there for a bit, and I was walking down the street. I was like, "There's orange trees there." And I was like, "Is this right? Like, can I have one of these?"
Do people think I'm weird if I'm just picking oranges?
I don't think I picked one actually. I think I was a bit too English and was like, "Nah, I'm walking straight
past."
I'm like, "Nope. I'm just gonna keep walking. I can see these beautiful oranges there. I love oranges. I'm hungry. I'm not gonna have one because I'm English." So it's one of the greatest things that you can just pick an apple off a tree and bite into it. So if you not do that, I'd be a bit disappointed.
So, being someone who wasn't able to do that about a decade ago and was living this kind of dream that I imagine most young kids have, to now swerving into all of these things we've been talking about and being able to pick your own fruit and everything, what sort of advice would you maybe give younger people to live a life that's got more fulfillment?
I think the easiest answer to that was leave a positive impact on the planet. And that's up for its own interpretation. But leaving a positive impact on the planet is probably the best advice I could give, because I think if it all goes down, if shit hit the fan and it all goes tits up, I think Willow's older, she's 20 or something, and she asked me like, "Dad, what did you try and do?" I said, "Look, I tried to do this, I did this, I implemented that." And I think that is then at least I've tried, I've done it through business, which I've affected a lot of people, hopefully. But I think, for me to try and leave a positive mark from when I'm gone is a positive ripple is the most important thing for me. Yeah, that doesn't have to be opening a zero waste shop, by the way. That could be making videos about people that want to try and change, or that could be, I don't know, implementing recycling into your building. Like, that's a positive thing, and it's just little positive things every single week you're making like positive changes, I think.
Yeah, I heard there was a woman, I think it's in maybe a TED talk or a video, she was saying that we've got this idea that we inherit the planet from our older generation, but actually we're borrowing it from the younger generation.
And we are, the way capitalism is working, we're taking that opportunity that they can have to thrive on this planet away. Whether you believe in climate change or not, the state of the oceans and the marine creatures that are being forced to extinction just through our greed and just the way we fish, for example, or the way we dump things in the oceans. I mean, only 30 years ago we was dumping radioactive material in the oceans. We're probably still doing it, but it's probably just kept under cover. And like that sort of cataclysmic like thought process, like it just like unsustainable, like completely ridiculous. Like it's our mess. We should be dealing with ourselves as opposed to putting it into other creatures' environments. And it's just a mindset. But you can get almost like eco depression, but I think you've got to think about all the people that are doing positive things, on the flip side.
Yeah, that's it. Like I do, although it's like terrible what's going on, I do feel hopeful and optimistic.
Yeah. I feel hopeful about this generation that's coming up, the Extinction Rebellion and, the people that I speak to on a day in, day out, like they want to make change and they want to do things not just for money. They want to do things because it's actually leaving a positive way. And I think a positive impact. And I think it's amazing just in that in itself.
Just need some more zero waste shops.
We need some more zero waste shops and also, zero waste supermarkets. Yeah, I think if one thing that could happen is teach it in schools, man. Schools are the biggest. There's all the kids go to schools. I think if they start teaching about sustainability and about our planet and what it gives and never takes from us, it keeps giving food, giving life, giving water, giving all these things, and we keep taking. It's actually about, okay, how can we give back to the earth, But for 30, 50, 60, 100 years, since the Industrial Revolution, we've had a very negative planetary mindset.
Yeah, it's insane that it's in the media and it's everywhere all the time, every day, but it's not in school.
I know.
Same with health.
They're still teaching algebra. Since leaving school, I have never used algebra. Why did I need to learn that?
People just talk about how useless it is.
It's man. There's not just algebra. There's a million other things that I got taught. That's just a waste of my time.
Yeah, we had food technology. So they had an actual time slot to learn how to bake cakes and Swiss rolls and stuff. But there's no time slot to learn about what's good for your body and how to eat nutritious and healthy.
How does your body thrive? How would your body thrive? What makes your body feel good? They're the questions you need to be asking and then cooking up things like that, as opposed to just cooking for the cooking's sake. But yeah, like things they teach, man. Come on, ridiculous. I think it is. I think it's honestly ridiculous. But
there's all these school strikes that are going on for climate change, obviously, and it just goes to show how much power the kids have if they all join together. So,
but it's about being coordinated. You can't punish 1 million kids, but you can punish 1,000, for example. So everything, it needs to be like everything. Any protest, everything needs to be coordinated. It's just strength in numbers. But I also think if the Extinction Rebellion, for example, you might be able to answer this question, but with them strikes, like, what are they hoping for? Are they hoping for the government to implement change? But then, because I think the government just like, okay, carbon tax, they'll tax this, they'll tax that, and then it's us again that's paying for it. I think the biggest change that we can make, to coordinate, is like stop buying the shit that's all these other companies and things are pumping out, because they're the companies are the thing that are doing bad for the planet.
Yeah, I mean, Rob Hopkins, who I did a podcast with, who's part of the transition town Totnes, he's huge on like anti-Amazon stuff.
Yeah,
and it's
so convenient, but it's just
the amount of packaging that you get from companies like that is absolutely insane. Did you see Hugh Fernley's documentaries, The War on Waste?
No.
Oh, you'll have to watch them. It's crazy. He actually goes to Amazon.
Big company.
Yeah, and they look at, so like you'll get a product that gets bought and it comes through, and then there'll be a machine that tells the person what size box to put it in, and he could fit the products into like the boxes that were way smaller than the box it was recommended. And then he was getting people to take photos of the excess packaging they got and send them in. And he just did this huge campaign on trying to reduce packaging. But I do. Like I said earlier, I feel hopeful and optimistic that, I mean, there's people like you, but then also the younger generation that are trying to implement those changes.
Yeah. And then I always back it up with, like, you know, if we do come extinct, I think, you know, in 10,000 years, the Earth will thrive again. So we'll be gone. But the Earth will be fine, and it'll be green and beautiful and a paradise. Yeah. So we're trying to save ourselves. It's not about the planet. The planet, I think, is going to be fine. It's actually humans and other creatures that are really going to struggle.
I know it's Saturday afternoon. I've dragged you away from the shop, and
paying these people, you know.
I don't want to keep you any longer, but thank you so much for that. Yeah, man, I really enjoyed the conversation.
Good, and I'm really happy that you suggested it as well.
Keep doing what you're doing. Keep inspiring people.
Yeah, thank you.
And maybe catch you again sometime soon.
Thank you.
Cheers, man. Yes, another massive thank you to Rich. I thoroughly enjoyed that conversation. If you want to get in touch with them or check out their Instagram, I will link all of the relevant information in the description, so you can find that there. And if you happen to be passing through Totnes, definitely drop into the shop. They have so much tasty food. It's at the top of the high street. If you enjoyed this podcast and fancy subscribing in iTunes, that would be a huge help. And we'll be back very soon with another episode. So stay tuned and see you then.